is going on, Choka Bros and Moo Gals? It is KidKupo. And tonight, this week, actually, I have another guest, another person I've been a fan of for a while. I don't know if you've been into the slums recently, but welcome this guy, our sick.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Uh, Thanks for coming. It's my pleasure. So how you doing today? I apologize that it took me a while. I had a dentist appointment I had to go to. They had to fix my tooth because they messed up on it.
Hey,
So I apologize for that.
yeah, no worries, man. I'm easygoing, so I was looking forward to coming on. I listened to a couple of your episodes earlier. How are you finding podcasting so far?
I like it a lot. Um,
Yeah, no,
I
it's
I,
fun,
re-
right?
I love it. Uh, it took me a while to actually break through and start doing it because I was kind of shy. But after doing it for a little bit, I'm starting to get, I'm starting to ease into it a lot quicker than I thought I would.
Yeah, it
So,
takes some time. So I understand it takes a while. I've been doing it for almost 2 years now, so it's one of those sort of you never know until you do it. But I recommend it to everyone.
yeah, I'm recently new to your page on Facebook. I'm gonna have you
Yeah.
plug that at the end of the end of the episode.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but I've been enjoying. I love your memes. They're all you, right? You do all your memes yourself, right?
I do every single one myself. Yeah, like I think I'm into the thousands now that I've actually created. It's insane.
And they're hilarious. They're great too because I love Final Fantasy, and I think you might have loved it just as much as me. Your artwork is amazing. I seen that Kefka shirt you did, and you actually drew that.
I drew that myself. Yeah, I'm not really an artist, right? So it's odd. Much like with podcasting, and then I've made a few videos as well. I just sort of go, can I do it, and see what happens.
It came out amazingly. Like you look like it looks like an Amano drawing, dude. It's amazing. I
No,
actually
thank you very much. Yeah.
still have those up for sale.
That's not gone up yet because I'm still tweaking it because it's the Kefka shirt is such I've put so much time into it that I've since changed how I was creating them. I was doing them all with a mouse, and I've since got a tablet that allows me to
And I love Final
draw with
Fantasy.
a pen. W-
Um, but yeah, I'm not really big in the Final Fantasy. I mean, I love Final Fantasy VI, but I'm not the biggest Kefka fan, just because of the whole Sephiroth Kefka battle thing. Even though he's a great villain, but that shirt is as soon as that goes up, please let me know if you do decide to sell them because I will. I definitely want to pick one up. I
no,
want to.
we'll do.
I want to support you, but I also that's
And I'm with you. I'm more of a Seven fan myself. Yeah.
so. How do you like the
No, no.
remake?
How do I like the remake? I think I don't know if it's an unpopular consensus now. At first, I loved it. So I want to address that. Like the first 80% of the game, I was in my element. The nostalgia hit me hard.
Yeah,
There were parts in it where I'm like, man, if this goes where I think it's going to go, and we can talk about that in a bit, story wise, certain characters, losing certain characters and not having access to certain characters going forward are going to be hard. And I'm like, because they made certain characters so lovable and enjoyable to be around that I was like, this is going to be heartbreaking. And then we get to the end of the game, and I was a little bit like, I'm not sure how I
yeah.
feel about this
That's
part.
actually. I mean, I was hit. I loved the beginning of it. I love how basically Final Fantasy VII with the extra bit, how Cloud they gave Cloud a apartment and stuff like that, and just a
Yeah.
little extra they added on to it were fantastic. But then I got to the crossroads at the end, and it's like, are they or Sephiroth and Aeris self-aware? Like, do they know what's going to happen, or are they going, or can they see, or have they seen what already happened, and are they going to try and change it? Because when I was talking to Soldier First Class last week, we were discussing that a little bit, and I'm going to be really upset if they go and make like they already switched a couple of characters from Avalanche who are still kicking it, and
Yeah.
if they make the one person who I know her if she's still kicking it by the end of the game, I'm gonna be really upset because that was the big draw to the last part of the game to actually
Yeah.
wanting to go and get revenge on Sephiroth.
Man, when I played that game, I was 13 when it came out in 97.
Mhm.
I'm becoming a boomer now, I'm getting older. And when I first played that, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, holy shit. they just did this, and I wasn't expecting it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, the only parts of Final Fantasy I ever cried were the end of Crisis Core, the end of Final Fantasy X, in that scene, the particular scene we're talking about.
Yeah,
I mean, I cried like a baby because the music's so impactful, and then what you have on screen that happen, it just hits you. It hits you with a rush of emotion.
yeah, and those two games in particular, for me, really sum up my main Final Fantasy experience. I've played all of them, but those two are the ones that just stand out to me the most. 10 and
I,
7.
yeah, they're great. I mean, nine. Are you a big? I love 9. 9 is fantastic. I'm big with the music too. A lot of it is the music for me also. That's why I
No, I
like a lot of the original games.
agree. Yeah, the music is fantastic.
I love it. That's why I like I'm big on Dragon Quest too, because Dragon Quest has some great music. What other JRPGs do you like?
So my favorite JRPG of all time is Suikoden 2, and that I think is just the pinnacle of of JRPGs for me.
I'm uh I'm playing Suikoden 1 on my Vita, but I'm so mad because I want to play the second one, but they don't have it to buy on the Vita, so I'm trying to get my hands on it somehow.
Damn.
And I'm probably gonna go I'm collecting older systems, so I'm probably gonna it's on the PS1, correct?
Yeah, it's on the PS1, and I don't know if you use emulators or anything, but you can get it on emulators. It's a very expensive game to get hold of now. And I sold my copy maybe 10 years ago, and it was like the biggest mistake I ever made.
Yeah, I did. I sold a bunch of stuff that I had for a while ago when I was in a tough rut, and I regret it so much.
Yeah, no,
But
he's
let's talk
exactly
about
the same.
yeah,
Exactly.
let's talk about you for a
I think
little
you made
bit.
a tough rut, and I had no choice. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it happens with a lot of people. But when did you said 2 years ago you started this guy are sick?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So what made you? I mean, obviously the love of Final Fantasy, but your comedy is fantastic. What made you put the whole comedic spin on it?
Um, I've always liked messing around with my mates and chatting and joking and laughing and having a good time. And I've always been able to make people laugh without trying. You know,
You
I
make
don't
me
even think
laugh.
about it.
You make me laugh.
So it was one of these things like uh, we had a bar that we used to go to. So how the podcast came around, we used to go to this bar that had video games in it. It was called the Loading Bar where I live, and it closed down.
Hmm?
So me and my friends were like, we have to find somewhere else to go, and I just went, let's do a podcast. That's kind of how it came around.
Nice. So, yeah, I mean, you seem like a fun, good going guy. Like I would love to hang out with you, Soldier First Class, and there's another YouTuber I'm big on is Nice Guy Prince. I would love to hang out with you guys if we all ever got invited to like a con or something once
Yeah, no,
con start comes back.
I know both those guys. They're really cool dudes. I enjoy talking to them. I had Night Sky Prince on an episode just when lockdown first started, and Soldier's coming on for an episode maybe in a couple of weeks as well. So
Nice, yeah, Soldier's fantastic. I haven't because I'm kind of smaller, so it's kind of hard. Like I was kind of slow on asking you and Soldier to come on my podcast. I'm gonna ask Night Sky event probably soon because I'm smaller, so I got that like little bit of non like the confidence is like starting to build up a little more, you know.
no, I mean, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. That you know, that's
Yeah,
how it works. So
no,
when you ask
exactly.
people, you'll get something. And 9 times out of 10, especially in the sort of Square Enixy kind of content creators, most of them want to help each other and look out for each other. And that's one thing I found with the community as a whole, and through Square posting as well, and other groups, Ultima, which is where Night Sky Prince runs. But these groups, any content creator I've met through these groups have all been fantastic.
Yeah, they're you guys are all so nice. Like you just welcome me with open arms because I'm basically the new guy. I'm the new Mog on the block.
Yeah.
The new Kupo kid, and you guys are welcoming me with open arms. I really appreciate you guys. You know, you guys are fantastic, fantastic human beings, and I just want to say thank you. I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you guys.
It's great coming on, man. Honestly, it's really good to be invited on someone else's stuff. It's
Uh,
always a bit eye opening when someone asks you to do something.
no, of course, I'm definitely gonna want you. I'm gonna have you on again in the future. I'll tell you that. Not that we're done, but because I do want to talk to you a little bit more. Because
Oh, for sure, for sure.
fantastic. So what other genres do you like? You like survival horror? Do you like besides JRPGs? I mean, I'm huge in the JRPGs. That's my main thing. But I do like a little bit of survival horror. I did like a couple of Call of Duties here and there, but I mean, like I said, my main squeeze is the JRPGs.
I'm really into strategy games. Like that's something I'm huge into. Um, I've found over the years there's not so many of them, but games like XCOM I really enjoy, and like any kind of tactics games, even though not necessarily like Final Fantasy Tactics, but
I
like Command and Conquer and those sort of things.
I tried playing Disgaea. I started a little bit, but I I got to sit down and actually learn how to play it. But of course,
It's a long grind.
in XCOM, I know it's very hard. It's got a big learning curve. It's pretty hard. But I also that's in my backlog. I got to sit down and play that.
Yeah, the XCOM games are just a lot of fun, and it's killing aliens. So who doesn't want to do that?
Exactly. I like the whole extraterrestrial. I'm big into space and stuff like that. So that's another reason I do want to play that. So I seen your you and I think you and one of your buddies, you did the you were watching the I think the Square Tokyo Game Show.
We were, yeah, the Tokyo Game Show, yeah.
So how do you? So do you still? I couldn't really get a sense. I know your buddy didn't really like the he doesn't like the he wants to go back to the turn-based battle system. How do you feel about the new Final Fantasy and the
So
whole
I,
16?
I have this sort of theory on it, right? Nothing about the trailer or any even today, the stuff that dropped today, none of it has blown me away as being like eye opening. But then in the back of my mind, I think this is a good thing because I've had games like Final Fantasy XIII, for example. When I first saw the trailers for that and how that game looked, I was like, I cannot wait for this game. And then when I played it, I was like, I hate it. I can't stand this game, right? And I had the same thing with 15. I was like, oh, this looks really good. I can't wait to play it. And I just felt like a slog going through it. And I was like, I'm not really enjoying this game. I'm just playing it because I'm a fan of Final Fantasy. So seeing as like those games built me up to really want to play them, and I'm looking at this one going, nothing's made me really excited. When I play it, I don't think it's going to disappoint, and I think that's a huge plus point that the game is going to have going for it when we finally get our hands on it.
That's a good point of view. I like that because that's how I was with 13. With 13, the characters I couldn't do it for me. The music was so and the same with 15. Um, I 15 I had such a hard time with that holding my attention. I started playing it again last week, and it's starting to hold my attention a little better, but I'm still kind of slogging to get through it. And I do want to get through it because I do love Final Fantasy, but I'm not one of those elitists because it's a Final Fantasy. I have to like it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I do want to get through it, and I do want to know about that world because I do love Final Fantasy. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is worth playing now that all the extra DLC and stuff's gone onto it. And when I played it the second time with all of the extra content, I actually found the extra content a lot of fun. Actually, better than the mainline game. So playing it again with all the extras is a big plus point. It's just a shame we didn't get that as the finished
Yeah,
product when it
that's the
first came
problem
out.
nowadays. You don't you That's what I miss about older games. Being able to unlock the content through the game instead of having to buy the DLC and stuff like that. Uh, that's what I miss the most about like the PS1 and like PS2 era.
No,
Uh,
I'm right there with you in game manuals. I miss having
yeah, exactly.
game manuals in my case. It's like I used to love opening them up and reading little tidbits in it and flicking through it and learning the controls and stuff. And we don't get any of
Exactly. I
that
used to take
anymore.
the actual little game manuals and the strategy guides to school with me and just read them during like my
Yeah,
breaks and stuff because I just wanted to have Fantasy with me every part of my day. That's just how just had such a big impact on my life. So when did
no,
you? Sorry, I apologize.
no. I was gonna say I feel you. It's had a huge impact on my life too.
So, when did you start first getting to Final Fantasy? What was your first, and was 7 your
So,
first, or?
so being in Europe, the
Mhm,
first Final Fantasy game to actually get released in Europe was 7.
mhm.
Nothing came out before that. I think we may have had like one of the Legends or something on like the Game Boy or something like that might have came out. But the first big Final Fantasy release was 7. And JRPGs didn't really used to get ported too much to Europe because what happened is they come out in Japan, then they would come out in the United States. And if they didn't sell well in the United States, they used to say it's not worth the risk releasing it in Europe. So when 7 came out, there was only maybe a handful of other JRPGs around at the time. And honestly, I didn't even know what I was playing when I first picked it up. I didn't know how it was going to play. I didn't know what kind of game it was. I just saw the trailer and was like, "This looks super cool," and I was blown away by it. I'd never played anything like it before, so it was like a huge hit to me of like, "Whoa, this is the kind of game I think I like the most,"
Yeah,
that sort
that's
of thing.
the first one I played was Mystic Quest. My fans are probably so tired of hearing me talk about this. Was Mystic Quest, and I didn't even know it as a Final Fantasy back then. I just only knew it as Quest or Mystic Quest,
Yes,
and,
the cover, Mystic Quest is like huge on the cover, on the writing of the game, right? It sort of said Mystic Quest in big letters on the front, and I
exact
think Final Fantasy is like small print.
exactly. I always remembered because my buddy had it. I always remembered the skull dinosaur you'd have to fight, or like the skull, some kind of skeleton T-Rex or something like that you had to fight. But, my friends were older than me, and they got a PS1, and he was playing the demo for Final Fantasy VII. I think it's the react. You're in the first reactor. You have to go through all that, and I just fell in love. I don't know why, but the music and the set, the scenery just took me over. I just always had this fascination with Midgar, and I always wanted to, I don't know, just like this whole I know it's like trashy and the slums are all weird, but I always had this comfort, like this roomy type of I don't know. It always felt like comforting to me. I don't know why, if it was the music or what it was, but it always had this welcoming type of comfort, the comfort to me. I don't know. It kind of sounds weird, but
No, no, it has its own charm to it, right?
exactly, yeah, like Sector, like Team for
When
Seventh
you when
Heaven,
you're
and
walking around Midgard and you see that people have and they've pieced it all together themselves, like everything they have, they've had to build themselves out of scrap and out of parts and out of things they find, and like the community must have had to come together in order for there to even be slums underneath there. They've had to have worked together in some capacity. So I understand it. And exploring Midgar in the first game, to me, I didn't know the game was going to leave there. Like I didn't know anything going into it. So Midgar felt like this huge, live, living place. And then when you finally leave there, you're like, oh, there's a whole world to explore.
yeah, Midgar is actually my favorite part of that whole, one of my favorite parts of that whole game. I don't know why, but it just,
No,
it's
it's enjoyable. But I've heard a lot of people criticize Midgar, especially with 7R come out, saying that like this was the worst part of the game. Midgar was the worst part of the game. But I thoroughly enjoyed Midgar when I first played the game. In fact, if I didn't, I probably would have quit. Right? If people didn't, when the original came out, if they didn't like Midgar, if they didn't get hooked on the story and the characters and the setting in the first couple of hours of that game, the game wouldn't have been as big as it became.
of course, because I mean, the first couple I mean, the first basically the if you don't get hooked on Midgard, that's basically the hook, line, and sinker right there. That that is basically the length of time in which is hit or miss. If you're gonna like the game and stay, or you're gonna walk away. That whole length of Midgard, I believe. And I always used to have trouble when I was younger because I'm 32. I'll be 32 in December. So I was younger when it first came out, and I used to always have trouble fighting oh, in the elevator, the heli,
Oh yeah, you've got the first one, and then then the other one turns up. The helicopter thing turns up, and if you haven't got any materia and you haven't got your long distance people, you're kind of doomed.
what is it? I don't know how, I don't remember what it's called. The heligunner. I knew it
Yeah,
was a heli something.
heligunner.
Yeah, I
That's
used
the
to
one.
have,
Yeah.
because I mean, you only got Red 13, Barrett, and I think Aerith, and it was such a pain. But just that the game is so fantastic. So how do you feel about the extra stuff like Crisis Core and stuff like Advent Children? You a fan of those?
So I don't I don't hate them. I don't dislike them, and I rushed out both to see Advent Children and to play Crisis Core when they were released, but I feel like they kind of don't fit the original so well.
Thank
Like
you.
there's parts of it where
Thank you.
there's parts of it, where it just feels weird. It's like even the way Zach is, like the little bit we see of Zach in 7, he seems completely different when we see him in Crisis Core. All this mention of Genesis and stuff, it's just like, what? No one mentioned this once during the original 7 that any of this stuff happened, because surely it would be mentioned. It's important to the story, and yet none of it's there. And I just felt like they kind of retconned a bit. And even though I enjoyed them, looking back on
Yeah.
them now, they're not so
No,
great.
I enjoyed him at the time. I just feel like Genesis does not belong in it. I don't think he fits at all. He just seems like he should be in like an anime or something. He doesn't fit into the world of Final Fantasy VII to me. I don't know why or what it is. I love that battle with him, Sephiroth, and Angiel on top of the cannon,
Oh, it's cool,
but
right? It looks cool, and even Genesis design, like it's kind of cool. But I'm with you. He doesn't really fit. Something seems off about his. It's almost like he's been forced into it. And you're like, where's he come from? Like he's come from some sort of shonen anime as the villain, and he's just sort of turned up here.
finally someone who agrees with me. But yeah, I just hope they don't put him in or mention him in the remake. I just think he should stay in the Crisis Core where he belongs. And I'm hoping they don't bring Zach back. I'm just so worried about what they're gonna do. What do you think they're gonna do with part 2?
Um,
Do you think it's be similar to 15 with like a world map, or
I,
I
I
hope
think I think we're just
we
going to
have
get.
to go to Com. I hope we
Yeah,
go to Com.
I think maybe we might even open there, so we won't physically travel there ourselves. I think we might just open, and that's where we've gone since the ending. It hasn't. You don't just take off right where the ending ends. Like you get to a point where they've arrived in Calm, they've sat down, and maybe even the game opens with the flashback and you controlling Cloud with Sephiroth as soon as it opens, perhaps something like that. And that's what I think they'll do. And then I think, like, if you look at the original world map, and you look at like outside Midgar, you have Calm, and then you just have the Chocobo Ranch, and then you have the swamp, and then the cave. I
Yeah.
think what they'll do is every part of the world map will be these little sections that load. So you load into these sections, and maybe they'll add a little bit more to it, but rather have like this big open world that you can just travel around on, at any point in time. You go into the sections as and when you need to.
It's actually pretty good. That's one of the best takes I heard on it. I
And
could
maybe maybe as technology progresses and we get to part 3 and they want to introduce the airship and stuff like that, maybe the consoles are powerful enough for you to be able to just fly around wherever you want.
Yeah. I can only imagine the Midgar Zolom. Oh, I can only
Oh,
imagine.
it's gonna be hardcore, right? It's gonna be hard to fight in this. Maybe even programmed not to be able to beat him, because they might even have it at a point where no, you have, like, in the original 7, if you have grinded to a ridiculous point at that time you get to that battle, you can actually beat him. It's hard, incredibly hard, but it is doable. I just don't know if they're going to make that something that you can just go straight away and do in this. I think we're going to have maybe like a dummy battle. You go and fight it, it beats you up. You have to go and get the chocobo to cross, and maybe there's even like like the bike chase sort of mini game. It could
Yeah,
even, like, it follows you through the swamp and you've got to run through it, and they make like a mini game out of crossing the swamp, something along the lines of that.
that would be nice. I
Because it's hard to tell what they're going to do with the world map, because when you look at 15's world map and you look at that, it was almost empty. There wasn't really a lot around. Like it's almost
knew
like you're
about
running around
15.
in this
Yeah.
huge world with nothing in it. So I think they're going to want to avoid how they did it in 15 and try something new with what they do with 7R, which we should hope for anyway. We should hope they do something new with it.
And another thing is, it's not like you're gonna have the tiny Bronco in the beginning or anything like that, or the little bug, the little car you get. I mean, that I can understand them doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'd feel if they give you that early, because like they did in 15 when you're driving around the car. I don't know. I can see him probably. I can kind of see him giving you the buggy a little bit early and driving around the map like that. But I like the way you said it with it's different, split up into different sections.
Yeah, and you kind of complete each section and move on to the next one. And if you want to go back, you just backtrack and go back and whatever. But you just do it section by section. So you've just got Did you play a game that came out last year called The Outer Worlds? It was a sort of shooting RPG.
Obsidian?
It was called The Outer Worlds. It was
Yeah, by Obsidian, by
by
makers of
Obsidian.
Fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty. I thought it was a pretty good game.
So you know when you go on different planets there, and
Yeah,
you don't have the whole planet. You just have those sections. Maybe
yeah.
something like that could work for the sections in 7R. Like when you go to a section, you have your area that you can explore, and you can't go beyond that. But much like when you hop a planet, you just move to the next section instead.
That's a good idea. And I can also see him doing that with like the different continents.
Yeah, it would be it just because of the way the game originally worked with how you would never have that freedom until the end. It just feels like something they could really dig into, and then they could decorate and make it look as pretty and as nice each area and as individual as they want, because they're working on one area at a time, and the game is only ever loading
Yeah,
one
I
area
just
at a time.
whatever that's a good. I like your idea a lot. Uh, I really do. I hope that'd be fun, man. I really hope they do that. I just hope
Fingers
they don't
crossed.
mess it up. I just hope they don't mess it up. I'm
But
so
then
worried.
there's always the option that they do mess.
Yeah, I know. I was
You
so
know, there's
worried about
always
the
the
end of that.
fear that they will. Yeah, it's a worrying ending. Like you mentioned with Zach earlier. Like I just hope that my biggest hope would be, you know, in the original game, he gets killed by the two dudes. There's only like two of them that kill him at the end. He's with Cloud, and then
Yeah,
in
the
Crisis
Shinra
Core,
MPs.
what I'm hoping is he has beat off the well, not literally beat him off. That's a different terminology. Beating someone off. He's won and he's defeated the whole group of Shinra grunts. And then as he walks away with Cloud,
Mhm.
then someone snipes him and he still dies anyway. And they were just tricking us into thinking he's alive. However, as much as I'd like them to do that, I don't think Nomura is the kind of person to put something in the end of the game like that just to be a tease, like just to make us wonder what's going to happen. And Zach dies anyway. I think he's definitely the sort of person who's going to have a plan moving forward for Zach in some way. And it's that part that really hits me in the gut and goes, no, this is not what, no one wanted this. No one wanted this. None of your fans wanted this stuff. No one wanted Zach to somehow come back and join the party and whatever they want to do with it. That's not what the majority of your fan base want.
One of the things I was thinking about is what if they do it like they did in Final Fantasy VIII, where you go back in the past, like what you did with Laguna, Kairos, and Ward, and you go back, but you play as Zack back then, and you kind of switch back and forth.
Yeah, but almost like a split. Do you mean like a alternative world where you can skip to what would have Zach done if he
Yes,
survived type thing, and you
exactly.
can kind of skip back and forth. While that wouldn't have been my
My first
personal
thing.
favorite choice, that would be better than the idea that Zach is alive in our timeline.
Exactly.
And it could
I
almost
would.
be a DLC, even. They could actually
Yeah.
go, while you're waiting for part two, we've released a what if scenario for you to play.
Scenario.
Um,
Like if
but
they did it with
yeah,
Earth, I want mine as part of the
exactly,
main game.
exactly. So like, it, the game isn't like, until we get more details on part two, because there are barely any. Um, it's so difficult for us as fans to even guess where they're going, because there are about 1,000 fan theories out there, and they're probably all wrong. And the only person who knows are the two or three guys who are at the very top of making this
Mhm.
game.
Because I couldn't even have guessed what they would have did with part one. That was way beyond my expectations of what it would have did.
I mean, when they dropped the trailer a couple of days before the game came out, and in that trailer we saw Barrett getting stabbed.
Mhm.
I was like, "What the hell have they done to this game?" Like at that moment, I was filled with dread. I was like, "Oh, why are they showing us this? What are they doing in it?" When obviously you get to that point and it is a fake out, and he doesn't die, and the fate stops it from happening, you kind of go, that was a trick in the trailer. But it really hit me a few days before the game came out. And I was just worried. I was just like, oh no, they can't do that. Like Barrett's like one of my favorite characters in this bloody thing. They can't just bump him off.
Oh, Red 13 and Barrett probably have the best personalities in that game. They're fantastic. I
Uh,
hope they
uh,
have a nice bromance in that. I like Red 13 in that so much.
yeah, the banter between those two characters is great. Like, I just enjoyed the way they back chat each other, and he gets called a pile of shit and all that.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, right? They and you can see them. I can personally see them bonding really really well throughout the game. So I'm really interested in where that goes. And obviously, they've got two of my favorite stories in Seven, because what a lot of people forget is while it is Cloud's journey, on Cloud's realization to being able to beat Sephiroth, all of his friends he meets along the way find some form of peace with their own demons and their own lives. And two of my favorites out of all of them are the stuff with Seto with Red 13, and then the stuff with Barrett and Dine, where you learn what happened and how he lost his arm and stuff like. So I'm really looking forward to what they do with those, and I think hopefully we'll see that stuff in part
I'm
two.
really I can't wait to see Gold Saucer. I can't wait to see what they do with Gold Saucer. 'Cause
And
that
do you think we'll be able to kiss the evil Dragon King in the Gold Saucer, or not?
we better be able to. I'll be upset if we
Yeah,
don't.
that's the thing. If you go to that little play and it doesn't give you the option to kiss the evil Dragon King, I'll be sad.
Now I'll be mad if you can't also date Barrett. You got the
Oh,
option to do the Yuffie Tifa Barrett and all that. Because Barrett's
yeah, no, you.
Barrett's little jabs when he's saying that and he starts screaming at the fireworks and shooting his gun off, had me rolling on the ground. I don't know why. Just him yelling and shooting at the fireworks, just being so mad, had me crying.
Especially with the voice acting in 7R, it's fantastic. So I like just imagining the voice actor just going for it at that moment is going to be hilarious.
Did you see Brianna White's cosplay?
I did. It was I mean, she doesn't look like Aerith. She doesn't look like her, but seeing her in it, it shows you just how much she seems to have put a lot of time and effort into understanding the character and bringing the character to life. So to then see her cosplay it, I was like, this was a really cool touch. You must really enjoy what you're doing right now. And I don't blame her. I think
Exactly.
I'd enjoy voicing a Final Fantasy character myself.
Yeah, I wanna I cosplay, so I think I'm gonna be working on a Wedge cosplay soon.
Yeah.
'Cause I've never cosplayed Final Fantasy, but I really wanna do a Wedge.
Hey, that's a cool one to do. Wedge would be a cool one to do, actually.
Or Don I did wanna do Don Corneo, even though he's a scumbag.
Yeah, I mean that's another character in 7R that they did so well. He was so detestable. They managed to capture him perfectly. You know, Mark Hamill doing the voice acting for it was just phenomenal. He really took that sleaziness of the character and then ramped it up. You know, just turned the volume up on how sleazy and evil he actually is.
I wonder, yeah, we do see him again in Wu Tai, right?
Yeah, we
Tai,
see him
see him
in
again.
like, and obviously he's got his little side story with Leslie that they set up in part one. So we may see him a few more times along the way.
Mhm. I can't wait to see Elena. I think we see her the
Yeah,
first
like
time when we go
you
to
know,
the caves.
man, there's so many cool. Yeah, there's so many cool things that they could actually add, like and characters that we know we're going to see, or characters we know they exist. That looking at it, it's like, oh man, and that was a big part of 7R. Like a huge part of what I enjoyed about it was being able to fall in love with these characters again, like being able to do it without feeling like I've done it before. They almost surprised me with just how well crafted they were in 7R. That as much as I might be a little bit down on the game now, and especially with the ending, and there were a few things, you know, textures, a few little issues I had with combat, like not being able to jump and things like that, that kind of um, made me go, oh, yeah, it wasn't as good as I expected. When I sit back and think about just how well crafted the characters were, that was a 10 out of 10 in the game. The characters and the voice acting and the way they conveyed themselves was some of the best that I've ever seen Square do in a video game.
Yeah, just not because I used to, always imagine how they would sound, but just the voice actors they just totally took it to a whole 'nother level. Especially with Johnny now too, the whole more incorporating Johnny into more of the story instead of being that. character where you see every little bit of your journey. Now he's like more
Well, they,
more
they give us a reason. They give us a reason to see him everywhere now. In the first one, he just sort of turns up and he's weird
yeah.
every time. Sometimes he pretends he doesn't know you. Sometimes he sort of talks too much about Tifa. Sometimes he just lies and says he's her childhood friend as well, and like he just says this weird stuff. Now we've kind of met him. We know that he's just a dork, right? He's like a simp. He's like a huge
Yes, he
simp
is.
for Tifa. So now when we meet him again, it makes sense that why he's such a
Leslie's
weirdo,
a
because he
simp
is one.
too.
Leslie's. I mean, he is a full blown simp. Unfortunately, with Final Fantasy VII, there are quite a few simps in the game, especially with 7R, because everything with Vincent is borderline simp territory as well.
With him and freaking Lucretia.
Yeah, he just lets another man take her. I mean, he just so
Here, I'm
there's a
gonna
fair
cry
few.
about it.
Yeah, exactly. Write some poetry in his coffin about it. That's what he went and did.
He carved it into the top of the casket.
Yeah, memorized it. And a lot of people actually hate Vincent. I don't hate Vincent. I thought when I was younger, I thought Vincent was really, really cool. Now I'm older, I can see that he's kind of like overly
Yeah,
edgy and a little silly. But like, I used to think he was. I used to think he was cool as shit.
Sid's another character I can't wait. I can't wait for.
Yeah, I know there have been some conflicting reports about the game with Sid, and people saying, "Oh, well, he might not be in it as much, or he might not be controllable." And there's all
I'll
this
be
like,
pissed.
yeah, I think everyone will be pissed because as much as Sid's relationship status is a little bit murky, he gets character growth out of it. Like when he realizes that he's being a dick, like he does realize he's being a dick, and they make up, and they end up being, fully in love. And by the time you get to Advent Children, he's even named his new spaceship
Shara.
after her. His new airship after her. So you realize that, like, for a character to be flawed doesn't necessarily have to be problematic if they get past their flaws and become a nice dude. And deep down inside Sid, he's a caring, charismatic guy.
I'll be so upset if you can't be him. Oh,
But then, I'm only going off these random rumors that are flying around, and none of them are supported. And because, like I said earlier, no one really knows what's going to happen with Part Two. All we can do as fans and as podcast hosts and as people that create content surrounding Square Enix and Final Fantasy is kind of guess what they'll do. And when you look at the changes they made with 7R, if we look at the Honeybee Inn, for example, and we look at Mucky and the way he was with Cloud, and he strips you down and gets you in a hot tub. Like, I can understand that in 2020 that might be a little bit weird, like, and it might almost seem like he's forcing him to do something he really doesn't want to do, and like that's muddy water that most game developers don't want to tread in. So what they did do with Andrea and with the dance moves was still, leaning towards that kind of like gay and like way of doing things, but without making it a mockery. It was actually quite fun and joyful. So maybe with Sid, they might tone it down a little bit, but I don't see him getting rid of it all the way.
I'm happy they kept most of the stuff intact. I'm mad they didn't have the this guy or sick guy in it.
Yeah, well, he was there. I mean, he was Cloud's neighbor, but we didn't get the line.
Yeah, that's what I was.
I'm tempted to reach out to Brianna and ask her to say the line. I'm very much tempted to just reach out to her and say, "Can you just? It's famous. It's a famous line. It's the name of my podcast. I'm a huge fan. Would you say the line and see if she does?" So that's on my little list of my little checklist for 2020 of things I want to try and have finished by the end of the year. And being able to contact her and get that is on the list of things that I'd like to do.
Great. I'd ask her if you can use it for the beginning of your podcast, for like to
Yeah,
announce
no,
the beginning of your podcast.
Exactly. Like it would be something like that. That's what I would ask her if I could use it for, and just say, look, I'm a huge fan, and I named my podcast over one of the most famous mistranslations in video game history, and I would love for you to say it. Like it's on the cards. I don't think she's someone I couldn't reach. I think I've got enough not status, but enough of a name now that maybe I could ask and get a response
Yeah,
out of
I
her.
think so. I definitely think so. I know it's a little late over there, so whenever you're ready to go, just let me
Hey
know.
man, whenever you're ready, like we spoke a lot about Seven. So if there's anything else you want to talk about, just let me know. I'm kosher for a little while
Yeah,
longer.
just
So
I'm down to talk a little more. Just whenever you're
yeah,
ready to
man, of
go, you know.
course.
So I mean, I don't usually talk about comics or movies or stuff like that, but what other else are you into? Like what else, what else makes you you? What else do you love?
I'm a huge fan of like music.
Love music. Music
Obviously,
is one of
lots of
my
people are
probably
into
my
music,
second thing.
but I really like sort of old school anime. Like a lot of people, you're in the age group that you probably remember because you said you're 32 and I'm 36. But like 90s anime when it was
Yeah.
hard to come by and it wasn't everywhere, and stuff like Ninja Scroll and like these animes like that. I'm really into those. And one thing I want to do with the podcast that I'm doing is try and sort of bring a highlight to some of these older animes that people have missed, like animes like Three Times Three Eyes or Crying Freeman. That because the modern generation is so engrossed with like everything that's new, that there is like a ton of stuff they did in the late 80s and mid 90s that no one knows about because it was not accessible. So one thing I'd love to talk about, like in future especially, is those sort of movies, and because they were mostly movies at the time. Anime was mostly like one-off movies or maybe two or three movies that were linked to each other, and that's something I'm really into, and it's something I'm looking at
Yeah,
researching and maybe doing more of.
I'm looking at I don't know if you'd be interested, but I'm looking to have a segment where we talk about like manga and anime and stuff like that. I'm trying to get a couple people together.
Yeah, I'll be interested in helping you out with that and having a little chat about that. That would be cool.
I'm gonna have to get some anime anime shows from you, because I mean I know Cowboy Bebop and like some of most of like the popular anime. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there are some that like everyone, Dragon Ball, like everyone knows these things, and like Gundam and stuff like that. But for me, the ones I really like were like these movies. Like it's they would just release movies, and it used to be manga, the company that used to release them. Hardly anyone else was releasing them in Europe, and you would just sort of like Cyber City, like these weird things, and you're like, "What's this one?" And you'd put it on there, and it was like gratuitous violence and like stuff that I probably
yeah,
shouldn't have been looking at that time, and like it's in your face, like
some
just Battle Angel Alita, which they turned into a movie last year. Like all this stuff is just really in your face stuff. But I used to love it as a kid. I was like, this is brilliant. Like, where did this come from? How did I not know about this? And over time, people have just forgotten about those things.
yeah. I'm gonna have to actually get some of those names from you after they
Yeah,
because I
no, of
love
course.
like
I'll send you a list of like really cool stuff to watch. That's no problem.
that sounds good. Yeah, because I like that old school gritty anime from like the 80s and 90s with that the old art. Because now
Yeah,
like the art's too like I don't know, like too not flashy, but like I don't know how to really describe it.
too crisp and smooth
Yeah, I like that
and
old school like I don't know.
just
It
gritty
just
stuff, right? It was different. It felt different, and especially back then, like because what a lot of people forget about is the '90s, like, and you all know, growing up in the '90s, it was gritty. The '90s was really gritty. Like the stuff on TV, pro wrestling with the Attitude Era and Jerry
gee,
Springer and like
yeah.
all this stuff that was on. Like you couldn't get away with that now. Like you couldn't air something like that now because it would be too problematic. But looking back at like certain gems, most of it was trash. Like Jerry Springer was kind of a
Yeah, of
trash
course.
program. It wasn't good. But when you take like choice looks at some of that stuff from the '90s, like with anime or like with a lot of the stuff that was going on in pro wrestling at the time, it's actually when you watch it back now, it's actually still pretty
Like
good.
with comics too back then. Comics started to get darker and stuff like that, and some of the some of like the storylines they were
Yeah,
doing in comics was like really like crazy. Like they,
Yeah, no,
you wouldn't even be able to do
like
it
comics back
to be
then were
honest.
fantastic. You're right. You're absolutely right on comics. X-Men back in the 90s was my thing. I loved the X-Men and I loved Spider-Man back then. And then stuff like Spawn, there were like things like that as well that I used to really like back in the 90s. So like that's what I'm into. I'm like like I said at the beginning, I'm like a bit of a boomer. Like modern stuff really doesn't appeal to me as much anymore. What I like to look back at is look back at maybe stuff that I missed back then, or just stuff that I enjoyed back then, and go, does it hold up now?
Like a nostalgic. I'm very nostalgic too. Like
Yeah, no, the same. But then, maybe we're just hitting that age, we're in our 30s and that's when you start getting nostalgic for things. It's when you start going, oh, well, that was good when I was a kid. And obviously, everything that was around back then is starting to be cool again as well. And we're getting remakes and reboot movies and TV shows based on stuff that we used to like back then coming out. So it could just be that like we're at the market now where they can sell us what they used to sell us years ago.
right
Who
now,
knows?
Pokemon cards, like the old ones from the '90s when they first came out, are getting huge where I'm at. I went to the store the other day. It's called Game Exchange. They sell like old school systems and old games and stuff like that, or mostly trade-ins and stuff like that. But they do sell like they started selling comic books and cards. Now they don't even look at the comics or the cards, so you could go in there and for $1 buy a comic that's worth whatever. Some kid went in there and bought an original Charizard and sold it for like whatever it's worth, $500. But yeah, I
Yeah, I
think it
can
was a
imagine.
lot more
Bloody
than
hell.
that. Like they're finding gold mines in there, and it's like these people like, are you not really going and looking through these cards and what you're buying? Like I just like they're just a lot of like I'm getting to Pokemon's coming, the cards are getting big again, and just a lot of stuff is
Yeah,
now
like I
coming
mean,
back.
if you look on eBay, everything that we used to own and, and used to like back in the 90s and early 2000s, it's now worth a lot of money. And there's people that are sought after it. Like one that's not weird to me, but one that's happened very recently is Persona 5 Royale, and obviously Persona 5 was such
I
hits
love
for
Persona.
Atlas and got so many new players involved that the price tag of old Persona games just went through the roof and shot up, like to a point now where it's almost ridiculous. Like before they released 5, you could pick these things up for 20,
Mhm.
$30. That's how much you could get one of the games for. But now you're talking $90 to $100 for one of the games because it's become sought after and popular because of the nostalgia factor, obviously, for some people. But also, a lot of people have only just discovered Persona for the first time, and they're like, I want to play the rest of it. I need to get hold of the rest
Yeah,
of
it's
this.
like DSs are really hard to come by where I'm from, and I'm trying to get all my because I have on my Vita, I have all my Final Fantasies and a bunch of RPGs I'm getting on my Vita, like Persona 4 Golden and stuff like that. And I want to try to get a DS so I can get all my Dragon Quest on the DS. But the DSs, you can't find any of them and if you go to order like a Dragon Quest game for DS, they want so much money. I was looking at Dragon Quest 6. It's anywhere in the box, I think it was like 125 bucks. Out of the box, I think it was 75 bucks. I went to a
Yeah, I
pawn
mean,
shop. I went to a pawn shop the other day. I found it. I got it for 10 bucks.
you just got to get lucky. I had it a few years ago. I went into, like, we have charity shops here. They're like pawn shops really, but people just take stuff that they want to get rid of and they give it away for free, and the
Mhm.
charities sell them. And I remember walking in there in one of them maybe 8 years ago now, and they had Vandal Hearts 1 and Vandal Hearts 2 for the PlayStation 1 just sat there for 50p each, which is like 50 cents, like
Wow. Like
I,
I
I,
I
I was like, these games sell for like £100 each. Like this is ridiculous.
I love to go to like the Goodwill shops, like the charity shops that you have there, and like to go to those and like tag sales and stuff like that because some kid bought a Sega for like 20 bucks with like 30 games the other day that he was posting on Facebook. It's like it's insane. Some of the deals that these people are getting. I want to, like I was saying, I want to start collecting like older systems and stuff like that. Some of the deals these
Yeah,
people are
like
getting, it's insane.
I've really had a craving recently for old games. Like maybe it was being on lockdown and being stuck inside, and I exhausted everything I was playing. So I've started emulating a lot of older games and playing a lot of games that maybe I missed as well at the time and wanted to play. Like like Legend of Dragoon, I only played maybe
I've
for
never even
about
played
four
that. I gotta pick
hours,
it up for my
and
Vita. I'm getting it
yeah,
next week.
it was fun, and I can't remember, something else came out at the same time as that, and I stopped playing it to play something else, and then looking back, I'm like, man, I never finished that, so I've been playing that again recently, and trying to get back into that game, and I've just got this hankering feeling where, like, when it's payday, I'm like on eBay looking to see what I can find to buy, and I'm the same. I'm sitting there thinking, I wouldn't mind a little collection now. Like now I'm like, financially secure and
Mm.
older. Actually, being able to get back the stuff that I had to sell and get rid of years and years ago is on my like high priority list of things to do right now.
That's what I've been doing a lot recently. I've been going back and playing a lot of JRPGs I didn't play. Like I was talking in the group, I was talking about Sega. Sega, I've never realized how many great JRPGs and underrated JRPGs that the Sega Genesis has. Like there's this pirate game called New Horizons, and like I never played them. I don't know if they're good or not, but they look really good in Uncharted Waters and stuff like that. They look like really fun like JRPGs. So I'm going back and trying to find like a bunch of like old JRPGs that looked good because I like the aesthetic. I don't mean to use that word. I know that word's very played out now these days, but like the aesthetic of like old RPGs, like the music and the characters and the graphics. I don't know. There's something about that I love.
No, there's a coolness to it, and like you're right with Sega. I mean, like with Fantasy Star and stuff like that they had. A lot of people, a lot of people don't know they exist. I mean, they know it now with Fantasy Star Online 2 being on the Xbox and getting a resurgence and people knowing about the game more. But when they came out on the Sega was not the console for JRPGs. Everyone at the time who wanted to play JRPGs had, the Nintendo, but Sega still had JRPGs. People just missed them.
Yeah, I have a list of probably like 35, 40 like JRPGs that I'm trying to hunt down, and they're probably going to be so expensive because you look back and like 10 years ago, people were selling those 10, 12 years ago, people were selling you couldn't get rid of like the old consoles. Now people are like selling them for so much. I am going to Game Exchange next week. They have a PS1 for $22, and the games are only like $5 to $15 each. So I think I'm gonna start my collection with a PS1, and then I'm gonna go to Sega and GameCube, and then like Sega Dreamcast, and like start from there, and like just weigh out which JRPGs I want to get first, and then go to whichever console.
Yeah, I
See,
mean, the good thing about it now, and the good thing about like you being more used to JRPGs and you playing them for a long time at this point is any of those ones that you missed, they won't be as much of a challenge. Like when they originally came out, a lot of people like were not scared of them, but it took a while to get used to that kind of gameplay. And now that you're older and you're more used to them, being able to find out if they're good or not as well is something you'll be able to litmus test yourself when you play the game and go, yeah, this one might be a bit too dated to enjoy now. But then other ones you might go, oh, this is excellent. Like this holds up today, and you'll be able to have like like a larger gaming palette as a result of being able to go back and play
yeah,
them because there's so many of them. You
the
can't
only
have a
problem,
choice.
the only our JRPG I went back and I finally played, I had a problem with was Romancing Saga 2 because it's just so like open ended, I guess I can say. It doesn't hold your hand at all. I guess it's
No.
basic like like I said, I never played it before. So, but I like it a lot. I like the Romantic Saga a lot, but it's just like it's so unforgiving. It just doesn't hold your hand, and it's like just I don't know. It just throws you to the wolves and just has you figure it out yourself, basically.
Yeah, no, it's quite a taxing game, and it's very different to a lot of other JRPGs as well. Actually, when you're playing it, you're like the controls are kind of a little bit not bad, but just different, and they're not what you expect it to be. And like even when you look at like say the box art and stuff, you expect kind of more like a Final Fantasy experience, but that's not what you get.
Exactly. I always thought Romancing Saga was like a Dynasty Warriors type game. I never really gave like I would give it like quick glances. I never gave it a second glance because I never really understood it. And now
I,
that
I
I'm
used
going
to
back,
I used to get that from Shin Megami Tensei when those games originally came out. The Digital Devil Saga games on the PlayStation 2. I picked them up and I was like, "Oh, this looks like some sort of like action game," and I didn't want to play them. And then maybe a few years went by, and they were still making them. And my friend was like, "You've not played these? They're really good RPGs." And I was like, "They're RPGs? I just didn't know." And then I ended up getting into the franchise as a result of my friend like cluing me in to what they were. But looking at them, I was like, "This is some space age shooting shit," and I'm not interested. And would just put them back. And it took a few years for me to actually even get into them.
totally one thing I learned to do is don't trust reviews and don't trust a game by its cover or trailer. If just try a game, and you never know. Because there's a lot of JRPGs I've gone back and played that I didn't think I would like, and I love, absolutely love. It's I regret like so many JRPGs I haven't played, and it's because of word of mouth. People said it was bad, or because just I didn't think I'd like it, like the look of it, or
Yeah,
that's
I
a
mean,
problem.
I had that with Persona 5. I bought the original Persona 5 and I hadn't played a Persona game since 2 at that point. So it'd been a long time since I played a Persona game to picking up Persona 5, and it felt like such a departure from Persona 2 that I kind of went, I'm not sure I like this. And then Royale came out, and everyone was raving on about it. And it was actually, Soldier First Class and the Night Sky Prince. Those guys were like, "No, you really got to play it. You really got to play it." That I went, okay, I'm gonna get Persona 5 Royale. I'm gonna believe you that it's better than Persona 5 and it's a better experience. And I ended up loving the game and being kind of blown away by how good it was. And the only issue I had with it was the extra content being locked off behind social links, that unless you played Persona 5 all the way to the end, you wouldn't know who was new and who wasn't. But other than that, like a turn-based game in 2020 that had that soundtrack and that level of graphics and that level of story detail, to me, was exactly what I needed, especially this year, because this year's kind of been crap, right?
Yeah,
I mean, no one's 2020 is not the best year ever. So having a game like that to just take hours and hours of my time and for me to sink my teeth into it and enjoy it, it's right up there for my game of the year so far. Persona 5 Royale, that and Ghost of Tsushima. They're the two that are at the top of my list for like the best games
yeah.
I've played this year.
I played the original Persona 5 and I just picked up Royale. I love it. It's so good. Because I love the whole going to school and living a regular life and then being able to go grind in like a labyrinth. That's why I like Dissidia. Not that it has anything to do with it, but you could go into the labyrinth and you could grind and grind and you can unlock the cosmetics and stuff like that. I like to be able to grind.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. And like with me with Persona 5 Royale, like I just found it like something I could put on, I could plug in, I could play it and just enjoy what I was doing while playing it and let the music and the atmosphere kind of wash over me. That I wasn't There was a lot of times where I sunk like 5 hours in one sitting into playing the game. And I
Yeah,
looked at the time and I went, really? And I just didn't even realize how much time I'd spent on it.
yeah. Like the other day, that's what happened with me. I played it so long I got a migraine. I think I played it for like 12 hours straight.
Blimey.
But it's so good. It's such a good game. The first one I played was 3. I didn't get too far into it, and then I got 3 for my Vita, but I hate it because it's not like you walking around. It's like a map, and like you're an arrow, and you have to point the way you want to go.
Yeah.
I
The,
hate it.
the, the,
I have the original on
the
PS3.
thing with
Original.
it is though, those original personas, the walking around, the first person kind of corridor stuff, and then the way the map works is it can be kind of confusing. So while the Vita version kind of cuts that stuff out and you don't get to walk around and like you don't get to explore the classrooms and talk to random
Love
kids
that.
in the street and stuff like that, while it does cut a lot of content, parts of it are confusing. So it's there's a balance, and that's what I really liked about Persona 5 Royale. They they didn't make any of the maps and play like school, walking around school. You're not going to get lost walking around school. You're not going to get lost walking around the streets because they don't make the maps confusing and open-ended in a way that like the Persona games, their maps are like you get like if you look at Persona 1, for example, when you leave and you have that little icon and you have to just move it around the map, like the map's huge. It's this giant map and nothing was marked, nothing told you where to go. You just kind of had to find it yourself. What Persona 5 did, Royale did with it, it gave you these areas. They felt alive, they felt living, they had lots of people in it, they had stuff to interact with. And yeah, just they found the balance between what Persona used to do with maps and then what they did with the Vita version, where they did not the Vita version, sorry, the PSP version, where they kind of shrink
Oh,
the
so you know
map
what
down
I'm
into
talking about.
nothing. They found a balance between yeah, they shrunk they made a balance between the two formats.
Like the Vita version's perfect. The Persona 4 Golden's fantastic. It's basically like it's basically Persona 5, except a little bit dimmed down. But the Persona 3 for PSP, it was. I'm probably gonna re-download it and try give it another try just because I love Persona. But that soundtrack is a very, very like what was the word I was looking for? Like a very feel good soundtrack. I love that soundtrack.
Yeah, like I mean, the original Persona games, 1 and 2 on the PlayStation, their soundtracks were kind of like not like bog standard RPG music almost. But when they hit Persona 3 and they just changed the music in the game and they made so much effort in the games to make the music correspond with like this sort of weird feeling that you'll get while playing it, that when they released the PSP versions of Persona 1 and Persona 2, they completely changed the music in those games and redid certain parts of it and put better FMV sequences in with, animations and stuff in there. And when you get now to where we are with Persona 5 Royale, that's one of the greatest soundtracks I've ever known in a video game.
Yeah, it's so good. So what is your favorite soundtrack? We already talked about that. Suikoden 2, right?
Yeah, Suikoden 2 it's got like 100 and so songs on it, and it's probably my favorite game too. Suikoden 2 is the game made me feel so much that after 7, I didn't think would happen again. Like
Yeah.
7 made me feel so much emotions while playing it that I played a string of RPGs afterwards, and they never quite gave me the same feeling that 7 did until I played Suikoden 2, and that made me go, "Oh shit! Like this is the same feeling." And then Final Fantasy X did that, and a few other games have done that along the way. That it made me realize that when a story is good, it's going to get you every time. It's going to get you in your heart. It's going to get you in your gut. You're going to be thinking about it. You're going to be taking that home with you. You're going to be going to school, going to work, and thinking about it. And when a game is good, it does that. And Suikoden 2 is one of those games that does that.
Yeah, I gotta get my hands on it. So I'm looking at it right now. It's so expensive.
It's
It's from
super expensive.
$54 to $650.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll look at them and it's like just a disc, and like some guys selling just a disc for $60. And you're like, well, I don't want just a disc. And then you look to see if anyone's selling the manual and the box and stuff. Like you have to try and see, can you get it cheaper by buying parts of people? And
Yeah, we seem to have similar tastes, so I definitely want to get my hands on Suikoden. But
yeah,
yeah,
they're a
I'm
great
done.
franchise. Like, and obviously, number 3 is a really good game, and 4 I liked, and then they've got a tactics game which is linked to 4, and that's a lot of fun if you like tactical RPGs. And then number 5 was a good game, but it kind of felt a little bit of a letdown to the rest of the series. And with Eludian Chronicles being made, via Kickstarter, hopefully we see Suikoden come back in some way, shape, or form for good.
Suikoden, right? Japanese version, $23. Wow.
Yeah, no, they're very expensive. It's a shame because again, they're games that I used to own that I had to unfortunately part with. That now I want, and I'm looking at them thinking this is going to cost me a lot of money to get these games back.
it's definitely something that's worth, like, if you have the, like, if you ever, like, come in, like, money or win the lottery, it's definitely something to grab just because it's like, for me, it would be the holy grail, like, to have, like the holy grail, you know what I mean? For, like, your
Yeah, yeah,
video games.
and it's an investment. To me, it's an investment. It's like once you own it and you have it, and it's in your possession, um, it's just knowing you have this, like, and not that you ever would want to sell it again, but it is an investment. It's like when people want to buy watches or they want to buy like old posters or coins or something. To me, buying video games is an investment, especially buying like retro video
Without
games.
a doubt, because I'm looking at Dragon Quest, it's like some of the so expensive. I don't know if it was COVID and people wanting to buy more handhelds and stuff like that or what. Handhelds are insane.
That probably did happen
Like,
because obviously there was a Switch shortage during COVID. There was a Nintendo couldn't get enough Switches out there to people. They just couldn't manufacture enough. So I think people did try and buy other handheld consoles as well, just to pass their time.
and I ended up getting myself a Switch, but I should have got a Switch Lite because I only hooked my Switch up to the TV like once. 'Cause I love handhelds. I like to be able to sit on my couch and have like with the Vitas and the Game Boys. I love it, and to be able to just take it where
Yeah,
wherever I
I'm
want to
I'm the
go.
same. I've got a Switch and I use the Switch as a handheld more than anything. I rarely use it on the TV.
So I know it's getting late over there. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but it was just
No,
fantastic.
I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. It's like talking to one of my buddies. So I've enjoyed this
Yeah, that's what I was saying to Soldier First Class, and same with you. It's like you're talking to like a friend I've known forever. It was. I hope we could definitely do this again. It would be great.
for sure. Like I'm available most times. So if you ever get an idea for an episode you want to do, and you go, hey, I want to talk to Sam. I want to talk to this guy sick. Let me know.
Definitely, my DMs are always open. But I want you to let my fans know where they could find you. So just plug in your stuff real quick.
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. This guy's sick. It should come up the first time you type it in, because I've got about 8,000 or so followers on there, and that's where you can find me on Facebook as a page. On Twitter, it's at underscore this guy's sick, and that's the same for Instagram as well. And then on Spotify and Apple and Anchor and you know everywhere Stitcher, it's just this guy's sick, and you'll find me
Make sure
there
to
as
go to
well.
his Twitter because Facebook are a bunch of crumbs, and they're trying to do this thing with the algorithm and all that. So make sure you hit him up on Facebook, but also go to his Twitter and follow him on Twitter so you can actually see most of his posts because his posts are so worth it. It was so
Yeah,
fantastic having you on the podcast. Thank you so much,
yeah, man, anytime.
and I hope to talk to you again.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Kupo Kid out.